Alright everyone, welcome back to another Star Wars Galaxy of Heroes video with Fat Phil, and today we're going to be talking about 5 teams that do not need God mods to pull off their counters. And this is an idea I saw in the comments of quite a few videos where players were asking me for teams that don't need God mods to pull off their counters. And I was like, you know what, this is a really good question, because a lot of you are getting to that point where you're building teams but you don't have the perfect mods for them. So, you know, which ones do I need to invest really good mods into, and which ones can just, you know, get and I don't want to say mediocre, but like a good enough set, right? So we're going to define God mods to make sure that you're not having the wrong expectations of what they are, and even so you understand what a good mod set is, and then also recognizing the counters, because when you say counter could be a wide array of things. You know, I could say that Sith Eternal counters Jedi Master Kenobi. I'm not wrong, I'm just not giving you all the information of how challenging that is to pull off, and the modding and the team that's required. Sure, yeah, he can do that. That's very different than me saying, yeah, Bane counters everything, right? Yeah, Bane pretty much does counter everything. So we're going to kind of break those things down. Go ahead, please like, subscribe, comment down below. Let's give a shout to our channel members for their continued support. If you're ever interested, that link is down below. But more importantly, guys, the link to the Discord is there. Make sure you join that. A lot of really good conversations going on. And most importantly, just, you know, interact with the video. Comment, even if you hate Fat Phil, go ahead and comment, I hate Fat Phil. I really don't care. Like, it helps the algorithm, and that's the most important thing, right? Get the algorithm going. So let's get in here. Let's talk about these 5 teams that don't need God mods. Alright, so let's start off with just what are God mods. And I've got a couple of characters up here. So God mods to me are these mods like I've got on Kylo, or the ones I've got on my Rey, where they are basically perfect for that character. Even these ones on Jar Jar with really good speed, some good potency, right? He doesn't have a ton of speed, but, or even coming over here to Paz Vizsla, where he's got a lot of defense percent, right? I guess that was offense percent, but he got a lot of defense percent because he's a tank. That to me is a God mod. They're mods that you are basically squeezing every bit of stat out of them for that character. We're going to be assuming for this video that you have good mods. And good mods are mods that, listen, you know, on Admiral Trench, I'm not writing home really about any of these mods. Like, sure, 22 speed, but that's not great, right? So the argument here is that there's not perfect mods. They don't have the best secondaries. Maybe they're not as fast, whatever the case is. Or like this one, it's got good offense, but it's got no speed. So yeah, you know, we're going to go through here and kind of identify, like, all right, a little bit of offense percent, but not a lot. That's what we mean by good mods. They're just like, they're good enough that if I asked you to show me your mods, you're not completely embarrassed, but that you're also not like putting them in the chat to show off. So that's God mods versus good mods, and we're going to kind of use the good mods, that these are teams that just need good mods, right? That, all right, in general, this is a good mod for that character. And then next, we've got to talk about counters, and I'm going to use this Starkiller team as an example here, and just kind of break down the 3 kinds of counters that I would say there are in Star Wars Galaxy of Heroes. So, and those are your hard counters, what I would just say are counters, you can say medium, but it's just like, it's a counter, and then soft counter. And the idea behind that is, like, your hard counters are basically almost unlosable. You're not going to lose that fight. It's very comfortable. It's very easy. You know, Jedi Master Kenobi versus Starkiller, it's a no-brainer, right? Darth Bane, it's pretty simple. Reva, those are all teams that just really give that team a tough time. Then you have your counters like Seer Malicos or Dr. Aphra, you know, especially with her Datacron. She can do a lot of good stuff right now. And not talking about the focused one, like the BT1 or HK. The Dr. Aphra team is really good against Starkiller because she'll get out there early, jack up all their cooldowns, and that can be a problem, right? That team, they like to have their cooldowns ready to use. Aphra can jack them up, start getting some kills. If you looked on SWGOH.gg, and I'll just kind of show this as an example here really quick. Oops, let's pop over to GG. Where's my screen capture? Come on now, you can do this. All right, there we go. And then come over here. Sorry for the quick delay. So here's, you know, who to attack, and I'm just going to type in Emperor Palpatine real quick, right? Or if I typed in, yeah, I guess we'll go to counters. That's right, I'm in the wrong page. Go to counters here, come over here, and I'm going to search for Emperor Palpatine. Right. So if I go in here, like, look, Jedi Master Kenobi, you're not losing that fight, right? Pretty simple. Pretty simple. And then if I was to add a unit here, and let's just say I'm going to add, you know, Seer. right? When you look at Seer Junda, you can see, okay, there's a couple of, oh yeah, there's a couple of hundreds fill. If you click on scene, you can see that some comps give this a little bit more trouble than others, right? And again, you know, once you start getting down into maybe there's not the Fulcrum Datacron, you start seeing where those win rates fall off. So I hope you guys kind of follow through what I'm saying there, is that you take into account, like, okay, well, the Ahsoka Tano Fulcrum team are using the Fulcrum Datacron. If I don't have that, win rate is starting to go down a little bit, right? And then, you know, so that's kind of your, what I would say are your counters, right? Yeah, like they're consistent enough, but they're not great. And then you got the soft counters. This is where you need really good god tier mods to be able to pull these off. The win rates are not there. And just to kind of show a quick example on if I pull up like a General Grievous, or if I pull like CLS, because I think CLS is a little bit more on that. Like, yeah, you're not going to be super successful here. Because this is even with Rebel Datacrons right now. You look, not great win rates against, you know, the team with Juhani or Old Ben, right? Just not good win rates. And if I pull in even like the Veers team here, which there's some help coming on, but you look at like your standard Veers team, it's kind of all over the place. You know, there's a little bit of like, you know, 79 getting up there, and that's definitely with a Datacron, you know, against Old Ben, 68, like it's not great. So that's what we mean by, you know, like a hard, a counter, and a soft counter, that there's just a, you know, there's a significant drop off between those. And then the last one that, of course, you've got to mention is, like, the Hail Mary full of grace, right? You know, your Wampa, that's a Hail Mary. You are just shooting for the stars with that. You're praying that it works. So, again, I wanted to make sure we understood that, and I know that we're 6 minutes into the video, and you're like, where are these teams? I have to set the expectations, and I have to give examples, because otherwise, I'm going to get a million things in the comments of you guys of, like, that's not... So, here's the teams. And again, I'll make sure to, I'll actually do footnotes this time, or whatever they're called, timestamps. So, Malgus. Now again, Malgus required with the Sith Empire to pull off the counters that they need to be able to pull off. They don't need great mods. This team works by the mechanic of doubt and fear. They've got a bunch of different kinds of damage, not just like the, okay, I did a hit and it's going to hit you. You've got the Malgus Drain of Life, where he's going to deal 100% based on your max health. You've got Darth Malgus, where he's dealing damage based on his. So this is one of those teams that what makes it click so well is there's a million ways it'll beat you. That it's not just one of those, like CLS, they're going to beat you through, you know, maybe a little bit of turn meter manipulation and primarily just raw power. This team can, you know, finesse you with your missing turns. You know, you've got stun and shock and fear and doubt. You've also just got raw damage potential too. So it's a very good team that, because there's a lot of ways it'll beat you, you don't need the perfect mods on them. Again, assuming you have Darth Malgus. If you don't have Darth Malgus, a little bit harder. Next, you have the Gungan team, right? And this is because of their shield generator. With Gungans and their shield generator, if you go up against an enemy team and they don't have the ability to ignore taunt, they don't have a lot of AoE attacks, they will beat basically anything. Right? At least, or they'll have a shot of maybe not dying. Maybe they'll not beat everything, but they'll have a shot at not dying because that shield generator just won't take damage. They are a good team in that regard. Obviously, with good mods, they'll beat some very good teams. And again, they've got some of those counters where it's like, oh, all right, it'll work. Like, it just takes a little bit of time. But yeah, with the shield generator, again, very similar, where there's a couple of ways they can win. The longer a fight goes on, the more time that Jar Jar has to pull off some of the shenanigans that he does. But I'd say the biggest thing is, in a lot of these fights, if there's not an AoE, Gungans are normally a safe bet. Next is the Darth Traya team, and I think this is a great example of one of these where they just need to survive. They don't need these amazing offense, deep, you know, like, just get them to survive. They've got enough health, and again, very similar to Darth Malgus, there's a couple different ways that this team can kill you, even outside of Grand Arena. You've got Isolate from Traya, right? That is a massive ability. This team, you know, fuels itself on debuffs. If you debuff them, they're going to be getting benefits from that, and that in turn gets kind of flipped on you. Like Traya, whatever debuffs are on your team, she'll inflict them on you. Like, it's not a fun thing. She can reduce her own cooldowns, right? This team has a lot of cooldown reduction and manipulation on your end between Isolate and Darth Nihilus here, who can, you know, increase your cooldowns, He's got an Annihilate ability. It's not fun, right? So if he survives, you're jacked up. And then Darth Scion got held by Hatred, where he gets that win condition where he'll keep coming back. It's a really challenging team even outside of Grand Arena. And so if they just have mods that are good enough to get them to survive, they'll win. Like, I cannot tell you how many times I was beating teams that were significantly better than this team simply because they're sitting around long enough. I jacked up their cooldowns, I get some Annihilates out, and it's game, set, match, right? So that's a team that you really did not need a lot of great mods on. Next one here is the Phoenix team. And again, what you guys are going to notice, I'd say outside of the Malgus team, you know, these are not ridiculously inaccessible teams. None of these are any, you know, you could say, oh, Gungans are super new, but they were a very important part of the game in that Battle for Naboo raid. So, you know, they're a team that if you invest in them, you don't need great mods. And I'd say the same thing with the Phoenix Squadron. They do not need great mods to work. There's so much going on here with Captain Rex adding into this team that a lot of those uniques and the way they interact with each other make up for a lack of God mods on your end. I would actually say one of the things that this team can even thrive on as well is that you've got backup plan from Hera. So even if somebody's a little bit squishy or not surviving as much, backup plan will bring them back. This is a team that I would say if you're in that, you know, Erodium, Chromium range and you have a half decent Phoenix, this can surprise a lot of people simply because they don't require these ridiculous mods to, you know, someone will underestimate this and it'll surprise them. I guarantee you will surprise people you set a team like this because you've got a lot of interesting mechanics at play that people don't always go through the motions and think about. And then finally, Inquisitors. And again, I think this is a team you're told to build for a long time. They just sold the Lightspeed bundle, so I think these are all teams that kind of make sense. Like, yeah, they don't need God mods to pull off their, you know, counters. This team beats a lot of stuff. Now, what I will say is you got to be careful on the usage here. Understand that you're trying to punch up. If you're trying to beat Queen Amidala or trying to beat a GL, then you need those ridiculous mods. And this is where, you know, be careful on usage is kind of my segue into going back to SWGOH.gg just to show a few things, right? So if I was to go to just say Inquisitors, right, if I'm like, hey, you know, who do I attack? And I'm going to search up, you know, Third Sister. So if I do this, and right away it's on win percent, which that's great. You know, you get to see, all right, you know, these are things that they have a 100% chance of winning. I'd say with these, you don't need a crazy amount of good modding here, right? Maybe the JML team, but nothing absurd. But then you get to like Jedi Master Kenobi when you click on scene. What are people using them the most for? Like this one, you need really good mods. This one, not the greatest, right? You don't need amazing mods. This works pretty well. You know, the Saw Gerrera team here, again, 90%. You definitely need a little bit better mods here than this leads on. But, you know, again, there's a lot of stuff going on at play. But you start seeing these higher win rates, and then you get down to like Queen Amidala at 72. That's where you need those really good mods. When you see something in like the 90s, you can feel pretty confident that you don't need these obscene mods on the team to make that work, right? Again, like Balin, that's a Hail Mary. You know, you are a Hail Mary full of grace, you know. So those are just a few examples with like your Inquisitors. But that's where you need to be careful on their usage, is when you ask about, hey, Phil, you know, what can I use my Gungans on? Well, a lot of that's going to depend on, you know, again, your modding, but like, yes, they're going to win against the Separatists, right? They're literally designed against that. I mean, they're beating Dark Trooper Moff Gideon, Qui-Gon Jinn. There's some solid stuff. But when you click on the scene, right, you'll see, okay, well, the General Grievous team, that's, you know, with the Stapcron, I can tell you that is a super annoying team to deal with. But when you start scrolling down a little bit, you see like Balin at 65, you know, CLS 99 is solid. The new Bad Batch 73. Be careful with that, because the people who are pulling that off probably have pretty good Gungans, right? So whenever you're using SWGOH.gg and you're trying to figure out what counters to do, just going on win percent isn't always the best, because it might not lead you to the right use for them. Because, you know, like Dark Trooper Moff Gideon, you might have other ways to beat that. Maybe you're going to use your Malgus team there, and then you can use your Gungans on like a Qui-Gon Omicron or something. You know, similar situation even if I typed in like Hera here, and I'm probably not going to get a crazy amount of data. But you look, like 100% against the Adrad team, 100% against the Night Sisters there. you know, those are some solid win rates, right? And if you go to scene, then you start seeing, oh, well, a lot of people using them against Inquisitors and Gungans. All right, you need better mods. So I hope this, you know, does this help you guys kind of answer that question? I hope it does, of like those teams. I think that the teams that I mentioned there, you know, your Inquisitors, the Phoenix, Traya, Gungans, and Sith Empire, those are all teams I feel very confident telling you they don't need these amazingly ridiculous mods in order to be successful and to beat those teams that are kind of in this range, right? That it's just a counter. You know, we're not talking about beating the cream of the crop. Just, yeah, you know what? There's a little bit of a risk, but not a ton. I think those are teams right there. So let me know your thoughts down below. Like, subscribe, comment. I love you all. May the force be with you, and I'll see you in the next one. Cheers, my friends.